And Enrique, you said you rather do the interview in English.
Of course.
Okay, and then so Ron and I and Riley, the three of us will be then being able to ask questions.
I agree.
Okay, thank you so much for giving us a chance to talk to you.
Why not?
So our first question is...
On my age, nothing happens anymore.
Well, but you have such a rich life story to share with us. So the first couple of questions we have are where were you born and when?
I was born in Vienna, 15th of May 1938. I was staying there until I was 5 months old. That's why I left the country, because I was a Jewish, and the Austrians were persecuting all the Jewish. And I was lucky, and my family was lucky, because my father in the First World War was a captain of the Austrian Empire. And they told them, you have exactly a week to leave the country. If not, you're going to go to jail. That's why we left.
Can you tell us who was in your family?
Huh?
Who was in your family?
My father, my mother, my brother. My brother was 8 years older than me. Lucky that he died very young. Unlucky, he died very young.
How old was he when he died?
59. Was very young. He got a sickness that nobody knew. There was a kind of pollution, because he was an engineer. He was a construction company. The pollution of the work fell down, and he got cancer, and he died in 3 months.
Oh my God.
It's gone.
So sorry to hear that.
The same happens to my wife. After 41 years, she got sick from the tongue. Goodbye. In 3 months she left. After 41 years of marriage, for me was very bad. I was 1 year like a zombie, didn't know where to go. I was working, but the worst was the weekends. The weekends, Saturday and Sunday, when you see the empty bed, I would say never gonna happen to you. I never thought that she gonna die before me. Never. Oh, so it's life. What else you want to ask me?
So can you tell us, what did your parents do? What was
My
your
father,
father's profession?
my father was a lawyer in Austria. And in Austria, in their time, it was the big country. It was not so small. That's why my father learned 10 languages to speak to different parts. Europe, 95% of the countries, you move from one country to the other, it's a different language. Only Europe. You go from Spain to Portugal, it's different language. From Spain to France, it's a different language. You go to Luxembourg, all different language. To Holland, to Belgium. Belgium, a lot of people speak French, but they speak more the Flamand. It's the language from them.
Enrique, do you remember why your family decided to come to Uruguay instead of going to a different country?
It wasn't by accident. Because my family was thinking to go to Argentina, because they have some family, but my grandmother, who was with my father, she didn't like the weather. It's too high humidity, and she wasn't feeling comfortable. That's why we stay in Uruguay.
So your family migrated from Vienna to Uruguay?
It was a very interesting story. I heard it when I was older. My father left Austria because he was owner of a bank. The bank was confiscated, but he has some money with him, and he took one night the car with my mother, my brother, and I. I was a baby, and he went to the frontier to Swiss, and from there he went to Italy. And from Italy took the first ship who left Genoa. The first ship came to South America.
And did you go first to Argentina, and that's where your grandmother realized she couldn't stay?
My father went first.
Ah.
They stay here. My father went first to see how it's Argentina because he has a friend or somebody in the family. He returned back. It's not healthy. We stay here.
So it was your mom, your dad, you, your brother, and your paternal grandmother who came?
Yeah, my paternal. My grandma. She was a lady. I remember her. She was a very, very clever lady.
So just to make sure I'm understanding, so when you were in Italy, your father just took the first ship that he could, and it happened to be going to Uruguay.
To South America.
To South America.
Yeah. It was just the first ship to left Genoa. He took it.
Do you remember the name of the ship?
Wait a moment, I remember. Was no, I don't remember. This was a baby. I was sleeping in a bag because I was a baby. I was 5 months old.
Yeah.
No, May, June, July, August, 4 months old. We left the 28th of August, and we arrived
1938.
1938, and we arrived the 10th of 11th of September. Yeah, 15 days.
15 days.
That was very interesting.
Did you hear later on, or how was that trip possible for your family? Like financially, people were coming here?
Yeah, because my family was very wealthy, and he grabbed certain gold money, and I remember because my mother showed me the last crown.
At one point.
From all them. They were a very wealthy family.
So your family was Jewish?
Yeah.
Were they observant Jews?
Yeah. Me too. Every Friday night we have a meeting here, and we pray every Friday night. We conserve. There are 95% of the Jews. They don't believe in anything. They are from the people of Jewish. There's the difference. They are people of Jewish and religion.
Yeah.
Most of them are the people of Jewish. They don't believe anymore. Different times. I was educated in a different way. Was the tradition. That's why the Jews are together, because of the tradition.
Do you know if your family experienced anti-Semitism
Yeah.
in Austria before?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So you said that your father was only given the kind of 1 week
Yeah, that's right.
time because he had served as a captain
Yeah, that's right.
in World War I.
And he was a lawyer from different officers. That's why they given a week to leave. If not, they took him to prison. Like, to Gestapo was ready to grab him if he stayed more days.
Once you came here with your family, obviously you were a baby. So did you?
My mother was a very, very handy female. She wants to be a, as we say, she knew how to handle scissors, and she went to work in a big factory. My father, little by little, I don't know what he was working, but then I remember when I was 5, 6 years old, he has his own business, his own factory, my father, with my uncle.
What language was spoken at home?
German. My mother, Spanish, poor lady. She was killing the Spanish. It's very difficult. Spanish is a very difficult language. I learned it because I was a baby. And they sent me because on their time, the second very important language was French. That's why they sent me to French school.
Here in Montevideo?
Yeah.
El Liceo Francés?
10 years.
So you were growing up. You were speaking German at home, French at school, and
Spanish on the street.
On the street. Did you go to Jewish school too?
No.
Do you remember if your family, did you get together with other Jewish families of German ancestry here? How was that interaction?
My family was together with Jewish, German, and Austrians. They were together.
Was it a large community
What?
of Austrian and German Jewish?
Certain. NSA, you remember NSA? Okay, you don't. It was a group from Jewish Germans, a big group. They were together. And they went to play, I remember I was a baby, they went to play cards or whatsoever, play chess. I like all the clubs.
So there was this community that you remember as being part of, that your family was part of too.
From there, a couple was friend of my father. I met my best friend, his son, Franklin Marcus. Still is the only one who stay alive. Can you imagine? Everybody died.
So that family was also German Jewish?
Yeah.
Okay. You mentioned an uncle. So is this your father's brother?
Yeah.
So he migrated to Uruguay too?
No. To New York.
But you said that they owned a factory together?
The youngest one came later. My father has 3 brothers.
Okay.
The medium went to New York. The youngest went to my father, came to my father here to Uruguay. He was 20 years old, the youngest brother from my father.
And the oldest?
Only my father was the oldest.
Okay.
And the second one was who went to New York. I met him there in New York.
Did they all leave Vienna? Were they all from Vienna?
Yeah.
And did they all leave around the same time?
Yeah. Oh. The families there, the Jewish family was all together because of the problems, the pogroms, whatsoever. They must be all together to have certain defense against the rest.
Did anybody from your mom's family came? No.
They were killed. And the Germans killed them. Because my mother was from Germany. They killed them in 1934, 35. They have very wealthy, they have a land and they have a woods and whatsoever. I don't remember what my mother told me. They came, the Germans, and they shot them on the spot.
Do you remember having these conversations with your parents when you were young? Did they talk about it?
Very young, no. When I was around 20, 21 years. My mother told me everything. My father didn't want to speak about it, but my mother told me everything. And then 4 years later, I left to New York, because I decided to see it's not future. I lost almost a year. I said, forget it. Wasn't so bad. I learned there a lot. I was working there. I had my family there. I married a girl who was from South America, from Argentina.
But you met her in New York?
You know how I met her? She was living in Baltimore. You know how I met her? In a wedding. In a Jewish wedding. You know, the Jewish wedding are huge. They can throw out, they make a lot of whoopee, as we say. No, unbelievable. We're around 200 people there. And I remember the guy, I was invited because of the father of the bride. Was a friend of mine. I don't remember how it was the relationship, but I was invited in this wedding. And they came to me and said, hey, I have a girl who's from your same country. Because they don't find out what is Argentina, what is Uruguay. They find out they're all together. It's not like this. I said, okay. This was my fatal moment.
So, can you say again how old you were when you left Uruguay and went to New York?
How old I was?
Yeah.
24 years old.
24. And it was tied to the strike, the national strike?
No. I left when there was a national strike here.
Yep, that's right. Okay.
Yeah.
And your brother at that time was here?
No, of course, he was already a professional. He was an engineer, has a construction company by himself. Yeah, he was doing okay. But
when your family came here from Austria, do you remember, because again, yes, you were a baby, so do you remember later on talking about how difficult or how easy it was for them to adapt to Uruguay?
My father has the knowledge of the language. It was much easier. My father, because of Latin and Greek, he learned the Spanish very quickly. I think in the same week he began to speak Spanish without any problem. My father has a gift of languages, unbelievable. I remember one day we were walking next to the Russian embassy. It came a guy out from the embassy, and my father began to ask him in Russia, "What are you looking for?" I couldn't believe it. And they were talking. Yeah, "Father, I didn't know that you know how to Russian." So, "My son, I know a lot of languages. You know only 4. 10 languages."
Wow.
Because he was helping, because he was Latin, the old classic Latin and the old classic Greek. And he told me many years later that one of the courses that he had, there was the Roman law in Latin. Unbelievable. They was very strong there. Europe, to be a professional was very, very strong. It wasn't so easy.
Now you mentioned that your mom was working also pretty soon in the country.
And my father met my mother because he was teaching her, because she was in the University of Vienna. She was studying philosophy, and I don't remember which course she was taking, that my father was a professor.
How was
What's the big problem?
How was it for her to live in Uruguay? And
very bad. She was all suffering. She didn't know how to speak correctly the language. She didn't feel properly, but she was in a situation that she can do anything. She never learned in Spanish well, never. It was a mess when she began to speak Spanish. She never feel comfortable. She was suffering a lot. I can imagine. We have a very wealthy family, because her family was very, very wealthy, and lost everything. And she was not a girl. She was already a mother with 2 kids. It was very difficult for my mother. Very, very difficult.
Did she make friends here among other women who came from Austria? Or?
No, from Germany, from Austria. But still, my mother she had a lot of friends. She was lucky that she found somebody many years later here in Uruguay, because she left to Austria and she was in Germany. She found out here a girl who was in her class in
school
in Germany. Unbelievable.
Wow.
She found her.
How did they find each other? Do you know? Do you remember?
No, I don't
how
remember
that happened.
How it was. I was a kid.
I'm thinking of what you said, that you were studying in the French school here in Montevideo. Were there many Jewish kids in the Liceo Francés at the time?
Let me explain.
Okay.
95% of the professors, they were running from France because they were Jewish. Okay. 95% of our professors were Jewish.
I didn't know that.
95%.
Oh, Liceo Francés. Okay. Did kids talk about the reasons or the history of their families coming here at any time, or was not something?
They were professors.
Okay.
They were. Don't forget, in their time, professors in this way and students there.
Right.
Forbidden. There's a big respect there in their time.
But you knew they were Jewish, so did they? Because
of their last name.
Only because of their last name. Okay. They never openly discussed their story of migration.
Already, they knew they were Jewish and they were talking certain. I remember one of my professors was a great professor in history. He told me, "Henry, don't forget that the day after tomorrow is New Year's Eve, our New Year.
And among your classmates were other Jewish students, many or not many?
Only two. Only two. Rest all were Uruguayan.
Did your parents ever told you why they chose that school for you instead of the German school, for example?
No, Germans. Are you kidding? 95% were Nazis. No, forget it. Don't forget there were German Nazis that ran away from after the war because if not they went to go to jail or they were or whatsoever.
How was that then interaction being here, knowing that there were Germans in the city?
Nothing. No. And the German school was very far away. It was in Soca and Rivera. Still there, I don't think so. The German school. There were a lot of Nazis that ran away and went to teach them.
Do you know if your parents were aware of what was happening to Jews once they left?
Of course they were.
No,
don't forget that my mother's family was killed.
Right.
In Germany. I remember today that my mother was talking to me after that. They were a very wealthy family. Took away the money and they shot them on the spot. His uncle, his cousin, his father, his mother. It was very bad. 1934 or 35.
Now that you said that it was incredible that she ran into a friend of hers now from school many years later.
Yeah.
Did she, was she able to find anybody that she knew aside?
I don't know.
Enrique, if we ask you or your family, because maybe the answer was different, how would you identify now or then as a Jewish person first, as Uruguayan? How do you identify?
It's different. One is the religion and the other one is the people. I'm from Uruguay, but my religion is Jewish. It's different. You can put it separated. They are always together, like the Christian and Uruguayan. It's the same. The same situation.
How did your family identify it?
My family in the same way. They are not very religious. They were normal. Just only three times a year they went to temple. New Year's Eve and Rosh Hashanah.
Was your brother born here or in Austria?
No, sir.
Okay, and did he ever felt Uruguayan or did he always define himself differently?
No, he was studying here. He went all his career here. He went to college here. He went to the university here. He was working here. He has his own company. He was more Uruguayan. He was only 8 years old when he left the country. It's the same that you grab her daughter and when she left the country, she gonna feel what she raised like this.
Do you think your mother came to feel Uruguayan or?
Never.
No.
My mother was an exception. She never knew how to speak correctly the language. She was only feeling that she was a German. She would feel. Her life was her feeling, her situation whatsoever.
But your father?
My father was different. My father was, because he knew how to speak the language, was completely different. He was more assimilated to Uruguay. He had a business, he was in touch with people. He has a little shop. He was be in touch with people who comes to buy.
But it was always German, the language of communication within the family.
Yeah.
Even when you were an adult or a young man?
Always.
You only spoke German at home?
Always at home was German. Until I left. Then I began my other language, American.
When Rona asked you about anti-Semitism in Austria. Do you remember experiencing that here in Uruguay?
What?
How was it to be Jewish in Uruguay?
It was a little bit, but not anymore, because this is a very free country. They are certain as usual, but not so, almost nothing.
Did your family ever experience discrimination for being Jewish?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Uruguay is a very free country. They think different. They told me in Argentina it's not the same. When it was Perón, the same happens with Brazil. It's not the same, because I have an uncle who was living in Rio. He died already, but he told me that's why he sent her daughter to study to Italy. She's a chemical. She's living in Milan. It's my second cousin whatsoever, I don't know. It's the daughter of my uncle.
Do you remember if your family was aware at any point of some laws in Uruguay that had to do with helping Europeans coming as refugees?
This I don't know. I was too young, this I don't know. It's a question that I can't answer because I was a baby.
Yeah.
And then I don't know now today, but must be something to help them. Who helps a lot is this our collectivity. This helps a lot. The Keren Kayemet and everything, the different Maccabi, they help. But they are, I don't know when, but they were helping. Still, they are helping today.
Yeah. So your family never identified as refugees in Uruguay when they did?
Yeah, because they were. But they were in different group, as we can say. Different group.
Do you remember growing up talking or interacting or meeting Jewish of different origins here, not only from Europe but from the Middle East, or because it's pretty diverse community?
You know, I don't remember to have different communities from only from Europe. Here, I don't think so. They had. I don't think so. The different Jews from Asia and Africa, they went to Israel. They went direct to Israel. Since 1948, there's a huge community of Ethiopians, Jewish Ethiopians in Israel. They were black, but they have problems because they are segregated. Doesn't matter. It's unbelievable. They are Jewish because they are black,